And the wonderful upa-commentaries, there are tikas that are written to it. And to understand Narayana Guru, one must understand his life, his learnings, his teachings, his works. If at all this person believes that he can create this divide so beautifully like how he has managed to do it now, then he must also read the works of Sri Narayana Guru, who also, in my understanding, please audience have the right to correct me, he advocated vegetarianism. So in that case, wasn't the same Communist Party the one that was patronizing the beef festival? So you cannot do a prakshiptavadam, you cannot pick and choose certain parts of the body. I love Anand's left hand, I love Anand's right foot. I cannot select you in pieces, I have to take you as a whole. If you believe Narayana Guru is the person, the Guru that you venerate, then promote vegetarianism. Then Narayana Guru was a person who absolutely believed in Parabrahman, then you believe in Parabrahman, because there were leaders in the Communist Party in Kerala who were extremely devoted to Guruvayurappan. I think if I'm right, Karunakaran and all of them, they were all very extremely devoted to Guruvayurappan of Kerala. They wouldn't even be a single month where he wouldn't go to Guruvayur, then become that leader. You cannot pick and choose those parts where you feel you can get comfortable in an argument. That means you're losing the argument.
M.R. Venkatesh?
See, the problem with these type of leftists is that they have bred themselves on with this type of scurrilous statements. And unfortunately, the Hindu society does not give them a damn. And it irks some of us. But the Hindu society just goes on and on and on, doesn't even bother about these things because it is not even worth debating as far as the larger sections of the people are concerned. But you are right, Anand, that I am also wondering, what is the alternative to shut them off? What is the mechanism legally, constitutionally tenable, but at the same time put them off? Now, unfortunately, we can't take 153A, we can't take 295, all these sections of IPC into account and file a case against him because it's not going to work. It doesn't probably excite the lawyer in me to file a case in these type of things. Only thing I think the society, I think, has the best mechanism to do what they do best is to ignore these people, and that would be the best form of humiliation for these type of people. I don't see any other way out.
No, but if this is being done for votes, if this is going to form an opinion from largely people do not know the difference.
No,
these are people who are opinion makers. See,
that is why people like Dushyant Sridhar become very important because they are the people who are carrying the alternative message. And that is what makes it makes them a compelling personality in the modern society. That you need not go to the level of a rabid dog to fight a rabid dog. You can do it in a very sophisticated manner. And believe me, this is the best response that we are giving by ignoring him. Ignoring him is the best response a society can give.
See, my point is either you ignore or you start informing. The latter is more important. The latter is more important, and somewhere the humble endeavor by bringing you all on the panel tonight has been to try and inform the viewer that you cannot take what certain leaders say on face value. That is something that's not possible. Yes, final 10 seconds. I have to wind up. Yeah, I'm running.
Anand, 1 second. Yeah. I will say that you are also as important because the message if it is being carried by Dushyantji, you are the carrier and you are also equally important. We should all thank you also for this opportunity.
No, I don't deserve any thanks, sir. What is important is that people start being informed. No, I thank you all for joining us tonight. I have to wind up with this aspect that when somebody says something, don't take it at face value. Go back, read and ask those who know and be informed, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us tonight on The Right Stand. Stay with us. Zaka joins you with Brass Tacks.
Good evening, this is Brass Tacks. I'm Zaka Jacob. In a significant verdict today, a constitutional bench of the Supreme Court upheld the validity of demonetization of 500 and 1,000 rupee notes, which were cancelled by the government in November of 2016. 4 judges ruled in favour and 1 judge, Justice Nagaratna, dissented. She said while the objective of demonetization was good, the procedure to introduce it was flawed. But the political attacks continue. While the BJP claims that this is vindication of one of the Prime Minister's flagship policies to fight black money, the Congress says today's judgment is not an endorsement of what they considered a flawed policy.
आठ नवंबर 2016 की रात्रि को 12 बजे से 500 रुपए और 1000 रुपए के करेंसी नोट कानूनन अमान्य होगी।
6 years after Prime Minister Modi addressed the nation and announced the decision to demonetize 500 and 1,000 rupee currency notes, in a landmark 4:1 majority judgment, the Supreme Court called the policy valid. Speaking for the majority on the bench, Justice B.R. Gavai said the purpose of demonetization was proper and there was prior consultation between the government and the RBI. The bench ruled that it was not relevant whether the objective of the overnight ban was achieved or not. There was reasonable nexus between the objectives of clamping down on black money and demonetization. The action of demonetization and the time period given for currency exchange were not hit by the doctrine of proportionality, and that the government has the power to demonetize all series of banknotes and is not limited to one series alone.
It has been held that there has to be a great deal of restraint insofar as interference in the matters pertaining to economic policy is concerned. The court cannot substitute its judgment for that of the legislature or the executive. It does not supplant the feel of the experts with its own views.
But one of the judges had a dissenting verdict. Justice Nagaratna said that while the object of demonetization was noble and well-intentioned, the process undertaken was bad in law. She said the policy of demonetization should originate from the Central Board of the RBI and not the government. There was no independent application of mind by the central bank, and the entire exercise was carried out in 24 hours between the 7th of November and the 8th of November 2016. An opinion of the RBI Central Board was sought only after the government took the decision to demonetize 86% of the currency. While the BJP claimed vindication,
इस पॉलिसी की नीयत और नीति ठीक थी. It was well intentioned. जिस तरीके से ट्रांसपेरेंसी आई है और आज इस विषय को उठाने का दिन है, डिजिटल पेमेंट में कितनी बड़ी गति आई है.
the opposition latched on to the sole dissenting judgment.
The majority Supreme Court verdict deals with the limited objective, limited issue of the process of demonetization, not with its outcomes.
99.30% demonetized money अब सिस्टम में आ गया. तो इसका मतलब कोई ब्लैक मनी रिकवरी नहीं हुआ, जीडीपी ग्रोथ गिरा नहीं गिरा, डिमोनेटाइजेशन गलत फैसले की वजह से प्रधानमंत्री के.
The demonetization decision had sparked massive confusion and chaos for several days as people scrambled for new currency notes. There were long queues outside banks and ATMs for days on end. So has the Supreme Court's verdict blunted the opposition's attack?
So has the demonetization debate, at least from a legal standpoint, been settled by the Supreme Court with its 4-1 majority verdict today? Let me go across to our full panel. Joining us this evening on the Talking Point on Brass Tacks, R.P. Singh is BJP spokesperson, Aishwarya Mahadev, Congress spokesperson, Gurcharan Das is a senior economist and former CEO of Procter & Gamble. We also have Ishkaran Bandari, Supreme Court lawyer, and Saket Mishra, economist, joining us. Aishwarya Mahadev, let me start with you first. This is what the majority of judges, 4:1, majority judgment said, and I want to read some portions of it. The purpose of demonetization was proper. There was prior consultation between the Central Board of the RBI and the central government. It is not relevant whether the objective was achieved or not. Action and time period given for currency exchange has not been hit. And this is the most important part. The government has the power to demonetize all series of bank notes. So basically, what the court is saying is the government was well within its right to demonetize the 500 and 1,000 rupee notes, which you, for the last 6 years, you as in your party and other opposition parties for the last 6 years, have been saying was illegal.
Good evening, Zaka. I think in principle, this seems like a vindication for the BJP government. But whether it is a lawyer or a common man, you have to look at demonetization as the exercise. And if the objective that was cited so gloriously by the Prime Minister then was actually met, irrespective of what the court says today, and Justice B.V. Nagaratna's dissent is something that very validly calls in the point of the power of the RBI and who actually had the legislative competence to actually undertake this move, including questions of when the recommendation, was it given by the RBI or was the government sent it to the RBI and then it basically forced this decision. Zaka, the singular fact remains that were any of the objectives reached out of this? That is the question of merit that we are asking, because whether or not the vindication from the court today with that valuable dissent exists, the state of affairs was that post-demonetization, more than 99% of all the so-called black money or the currency came back into the system. you see
No,
that
no,
the
but
cash to
you
GDP ratio, while we spoke about this
there were
entire idea of
58
digitization,
petitions.
the cash
There
to
were
GDP ratio
58
is at an
petitions.
all-time
One
high
second, I'll come to
now
the cash in
than it
circulation
ever
in one
was
second,
before.
Aishwarya. I'll
One
come to the
second,
cash in
yes.
circulation in 1 second. There were 58 petitions, including many, and it was whittled down to 7 broad areas. And those 7 broad areas included the merit and the outcome, to which the majority judgment today said the outcome, whether it was met or not, is irrespective because it's post facto anyway. How can you decide 6 years on if an outcome was met or not?
While the legal jurisprudence of this matter is obviously a retrospective sort of analysis of what actually happened, for any law to be good as public policy, it's something that should meet widespread sort of public acceptance. So we saw the suffering, Zaka. I think you also reported very critically and also very crucially during this period, where you have more than 120 people dead. You see informal economies or small scale economies completely wiped out. 2 years on, you saw GST, and the economy is worse for wear than ever before. Whether it is fake currency,
Okay.
whether it is GDP, whether it's the cash in the economy. Obviously, retrospectively, they can't sit and talk about undoing the damage of 2016.
No, I'll come to the cash
Dhaka,
in circulation argument in a moment. Let me
that
ask,
this was bad in
RP
law.
Singh, with today's dissenting judgment, and the opposition has been quoting the dissenting judgment by Justice Nagaratna. The objective was noble. The process that was undertaken was bad in law, RP Singh. The policy should originate from the RBI Central Board, not from the government. It should have been passed by legislation through Parliament or as an ordinance, as was done the last time in 1978, and not as a Gazette notification. This is the dissenting judgment that's being cited by the opposition.
Well, Zaka, we believe in a system where majority rules, and this is not 2:3, this is 4:1. Secondly, let's understand, the opposition is not accepting the majority judgment. When they didn't accept it, they didn't want to accept the Ram Mandir also. They went to the court and they did what drama they did in the court during the Ram Mandir case also. So similarly here, they don't believe in election commission. So they don't believe in any institution of the country, and then they have all the right to do that. They can keep doing that, but the fact is, court has made it clear that decision which was taken was a right decision. Right decision means technically there's no fault with it. I mean,
Okay.
I'll come to that part, whether it could achieve the objectives or not. I'll come to that part also. But technically, and then no less than Chidambaram Saab, Prashant Bhushan, I mean, they were the people who had filed their pleas against this, and they are one of the best lawyers Congress has, and Congress today can't say like that they did in Kapil Sibal case that, oh, we have nothing to do with him, he was fighting someone else's case
Okay.
in Ram Mandir. But similarly here they can, Mr. Chidambaram is representing a political party.
Okay, now come to the outcomes part. When demonetization was announced,
give me a second.
No, when demonetization was announced, there were 3 factors that were put out. The Prime Minister said it: black money, fake currency, and curbing terrorism. So please tell us on all 3 what has been achieved.
I'll give me another second, and then I'll come to that. Now they say that they're picking up the one judgment which
Correct.
says that
Dissenting
it
judgment,
should have gone to the parliament. Do you think had it gone to the parliament, it could have been implemented? I mean, something similar to as they are asking her, where are our in this China conflict? Oh, what are the breaches or wherever the forces are deployed? Tell this to the parliament. They have just recently did so in the China conflict case
Okay.
also. So they do it for certain reasons, and then the complete thing would have never been implemented had it been taken to parliament or had it been done to the parliament.
Okay.
So court has given clearance on that. Now coming to your point of,
I want to go to the experts. I want to go to the
give me a
experts,
second.
Gurcharan Das, Ishkaran Bandari, and Saket Mishra. Gurcharan Das, let me start with you. One of the data points that the opposition keeps citing again and again is the cash in circulation. At the time that demonetization happened in November 2016, there was 16.42 lakh crore total value of banknotes that was in circulation. 86% of it was 500 and 1,000 rupee notes. And the RBI, in a report submitted to Parliament, said that out of that 16.42 lakhs, more than 15.5 lakh crores came back as cash in circulation. The opposition is using this number, and has been for the last many years, to say that the purpose of demonetization has been defeated. Do you agree or not?
Well, I think, frankly, the this exercise that we are having today, after so many years, it feels so odd to be discussing something that is history. But yes, to answer your question, I think the purposes of demonetization were not achieved. And I think it was not possible to achieve them. The only way you could handle, the idea was not a good one. And the only way you could have done it was if the government had issued 10,000 and 5,000 rupee notes for a couple of years and then withdraw those. Because then it will be just the big guys you would have caused trouble to.
Okay.
But in fact, it was a tragedy. The hurt that the whole country felt was far, far out of proportion to it. Now, that's the outcome. But the judgment today doesn't deal with outcome. And I'm actually glad because the Supreme Court has shown restraint. It has said that we will deal only with the process. And that's the right thing for the Supreme Court to say. Otherwise, they keep getting accused of overreach.
Mm-hmm.
Courts should not be put in a position to make judgments on economic issues
Policy.
by and large.
Okay.
And so really, as regard the legality of the situation, frankly, the minority opinion, or I am sympathetic to the dissent opinion, because I do believe that the RBI, it sounds like it was a fait accompli presented to the RBI.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's very little for us to go by. There is now, of course, an affidavit. They say they approve it, etc. But it required a lot more thought. It required on the part of RBI and
Okay.
And a lot of application of mind.
Okay, so let me ask Ishkaran Bhandari.
Really,
so if
but,
the
but as to
RBI,
the
sorry, if the
let
court.
me just finish, Zaka.
Okay, go on.
The decision ultimately,
Mm-hmm.
this is where I disagree with the minority opinion, that the decision of such a
Magnitude,
significant matter has to be a sovereign decision of the executive.
Okay.
Sure, RBI can recommend these things, but you can't fault that.
Okay.
The idea.
So
that
let me ask Ishkaran. So where does that square, Ishkaran, with what Mr. Das said, that a decision of such a great magnitude, with the ostensible aims of tackling black money and checking fake notes in circulation, tackling terrorism, that is terror money to fund terrorism. This cannot be something that is passed as a legislation in Parliament because it would defeat the very purpose of bringing such a move. This has to be exclusively within the realm of the sovereign. But if you look at the dissenting judgment, she says it should have been brought in not as a gazette notification, but either as a legislation through Parliament or as an ordinance.
Zaka, there are three parts to this debate. One is political, the other is economic, the third is legal. Because it's a Supreme Court judgment, let's deal with the legal part first.
Yeah.
The Supreme Court has, and the majority judgment, let's be clear, the law of the land is the majority judgment. The dissenting opinion might have academic value, might have scholarly value, but the decision of the Supreme Court is as announced by the majority. What they have said, first, on the aspect whether it was hasty, they said, no, it was not hasty. You have to have secrecy on these issues. If it goes to Parliament, what would be the secrecy? Secondly, they said that the object had a reasonable nexus with the decision. So the decision of demonetization had a reasonable nexus with what he was seeking to achieve. Whether that is achieved or not is a matter of political and economic debate, which has to be outside the court.
Okay.
Third aspect which the court went into is whether the central government had the power to do so. The court emphatically ruled that the central government had the power to do so, even if the proposal emanated from the central government, that is legally valid. So all these aspects which were highlighted, that the decision is illegal, it's hasty, it has caused misery to people in the sense of the process where notes were being exchanged, the court even noted, even though unfortunately people might have suffered some misery while the notes were being exchanged, that does not mean it's legal or not. Any big decision of the government can cause misery to certain people. That makes it neither legal nor illegal. That's a consequence which the government has to deal with politically if people face too much misery. But legally, the government had the power to do so.
So let me then ask Saket Mishra, because when the history books are written on this move, what the opposition is saying, the government is saying, look, the fact that 238,000 shell companies were detected and shut down, obviously shell companies are used to siphon off black money. There was a stringent black money law that was brought in after demonetization, in which, as I remember, all opposition parties, including the Congress party, voted in favor in Parliament. The component of the informal sector came down from 32% to 20%, which is again a good thing. You want as much formal sector employment as possible in this country. And the most important one, the skyrocketing digital payments number, which the government says as of December 22, the last month, was 780 crores number of digital transactions, value of 12 lakh crores, making it the highest for any country in the world. That's what the government is saying. But then the opposition says you have to square that off with the long lines and the 100 people dead and the unspeakable amount of pain and misery that was caused in the 50 days after 8th of November 2016.
Zaka, first I would just like to say that I think change is painful, and especially a change as momentous as the one we had with demonetization. And clearly there were some things, whether it was preparing bank staff for the kind of long lines, etc., that could have been done better. But having said that, and I'm not even going to discuss the legal issue, because I think that the Supreme Court is perhaps better suited to settle that than any of us. And outcomes clearly is not in their jurisdiction, as they've said. I would humbly disagree with Mr. Das. I think even in terms of what the objectives were sought to be achieved and have been achieved. If you look at the buoyancy of tax versus the rate of growth of the economy, that's increased since the time of demonetization. If you look at the number of people, the amount of taxes, direct taxes that are collected from the non-corporate sector, these are people who effectively had to deposit money in the bank account at that time and therefore had to start showing real income thereafter, which obviously couldn't disappear, has gone up substantially. I think it's almost doubled since that time. If you look at also just in terms of the buoyancy of tax changes vis-a-vis GDP, which also boils down to share, that's also increased. So what we're talking about is an economy that increasingly is more compliant.
Okay.
At the same time, we talked about digitization of the economy, and I won't repeat the numbers again because today India is talking about 40% of global digital payments. Okay. Now, digital payments by themselves are not a great virtue. They are great because what they lead to is a formalization of the economy. Mm-hmm. They're great because they make the economy ready for future measures like whether it's blockchain or whether it's AI that makes processing cheaper. And I think one benefit of digitization that everybody misses is that it is the Aam Aadmi that actually benefits with the digitization at the retail level. It's the poor three-wheeler driver. It's the guy selling milk at Mother Dairy. It's the guy selling samosas, which we all see in that, I think, Google Pay ad or Amazon Pay ad. Those are the guys who till yesterday were worried about would they get their money on time. A taxi driver would worry whether he would get his salary on time from the taxi stop owner. They get their money straight away. Their credit risk and worry is reduced. And therefore, I think the common man in terms of the cost, whether it's in terms of worry, whether it's in terms of efficiency, whether it's in terms of actual
greatly
cost
benefits because of digital transactions.
So
let me give Gurcharan Das a chance to rebut that, and then I'll go back to the political spokespersons. No, essentially what Saket is saying, Mr. Das, is you look at the number of direct tax returnees in India. At the time the demonetization happened, it was around 4 crore. Right now, it's 6.5 or 6.6 crores. He is saying whether it's direct taxes or even indirect taxes with GST now, his point is more and more people have been forced to come into the mainstream and declare their income because of demonetization.
No, I agree with almost everything that Mr. Saket Mishra has said. My only point is that the government has done a number of excellent things after demonetization. It's things like the push for digitization, the JAM, the Jan Dhan Yojana account, the mobile banking, the faceless assessment, these have contributed a lot more to the success to the correct success that Mr. Mishra has pointed out. I don't think it was demonetization, certainly not demonetization alone that did it. In that, those other pushes have been the right ones. GST was started badly, but it's a good move, and it's picked up steam. It's corrected itself, and so what I'm trying to say is, ironically, it is not demonetization, but it is the rest of the stuff that this government has pushed, which has contributed to all the fine things.
So let me go back to the political spokespersons,
and which has poised India
Aishwarya,
for a rapid growth in the.
Aishwarya, you keep citing this cash in circulation figure. Now, why that may not necessarily capture the full picture is cash in circulation at the time of demonetization was about 16 lakh crores. That has now gone up to 32 lakh crores, but you have to see it as a proportion of GDP. GDP at that time was a little over 120 lakh crores. Right now, it's 270 lakh crores. So the point is, cash in circulation as a proportion of GDP has actually come down compared to 2016-17 when demonetization happened.
You know, Zaka, before I answer that, I want to give you a response to Mr. R.P. Singh talking about, the Congress is just opposing the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court, in its eternal wisdom, has given us something. It's not like the BJP has never opposed it, whether it is sedition, whether it is ideas of love jihad, whether it's the idea of overextending, whether it's the other. Also, they've had very varying contrarian views with the Supreme Court itself. And today on the three metrics, I will answer according to the three metrics, Zaka, because you may have numbers to justify on the other side and the other people on the panel may, but I also have a few opinions on the idea of when you talk about fake currency there. The RBI itself in 2021 and 22 has told you there's a 105% increase in the circulation of fake currency of 500 and over a 50% increase of 2000 rupee notes, which was one of the objectives. Second was black money and the Swiss bank idea, which they spoke about from 2014 onwards. And you see that this is the 14-year high with the money with the Swiss bank today. And lastly, Zaka, the fact that something legally can be good does not justify the fact that objectively on the ground it has caused a lot of suffering. For example, let me give you a historical example, because this idea of Lebensraum or living space was lauded by a lot of people in the Weimar Republic. And what that led to later was annexation and death camps, as all of us know. Today, no amount of justification can take away from the fact that hundreds of people lost their lives, economies were wiped out, and the suffering and the misery is not something that can be wiped away by legal sanction retrospectively. The BJP government has still not replied on that.
Constitutionality does not necessarily take away from the pain. And let's face it, I mean, the pictures speak for themselves. People did go through a lot of pain in the 3 or 4 weeks after demonetization. R.P. Singh.
Zaka, first, just juxtaposing people dying somewhere and then just putting it along with the demonetization. Similarly, they did with this farmer education also. So that's very easy for them. I mean, people come. I mean, I'm sitting here. Probably next minute I won't be here, because then it will blame on your channel that I was debating on your channel, so I died. I mean, something like that. So it's not that.
No. We wish you a long and healthy life. Don't.
No. But tomorrow, I mean, you can be prepared that you will be accused of it. That I was on your debate, Zaka's debate, so I lost my life. But talking about.
Okay, go on.
Some 2000s, what happened used to happen in 2016 in Kashmir. The stone pelting, all this terror funding network has been cracked upon. And then what is happening today? I mean, we're inching toward, although there are problems, but we are gradually inching toward normalization in Kashmir. I mean, things are not as bad as they used to be before the demonetization in Kashmir.
Okay.
I understand fake currency, but fake currency is also in control. It's not that it's getting out of proportion. I don't know what the figure she gave. And coming on the issue of the share of currency in circulation, payment system. I mean, it used to kind of. Did I interrupt it, ma'am? Ma'am, please, ma'am. I never interrupted. Zaka will give you another fair time. So the share of the currency in the circulation is more important, and it used to be 88% in 2016, is 20% today. So there are different parameters of about thinking, looking toward thing. I mean, you can see half full or half empty. I mean, they will always see half empty because they're in opposition. They have a right to do so. I'm not denying that right. But fact is that even that money which came to the bank has helped the banks to lower their bank interest rates. Their banks have a surplus today, and they have lowered down the bank interest rates also. And last but not the least, that everything is tracked today. I mean, all that money which came to the bank, you think it's not being tracked? Every penny is being tracked.
Okay, I think one of the data points which RP Singh cited, I think is a fair one, and I want to ask Saket Mishra this. When Congress and other opposition parties say cash in circulation has doubled between 2016 and now, cash in circulation within payment systems has come down by a fifth. It used to be 80% plus, it's now just 20%. So basically, if you're buying stuff online using Google Pay or Amazon Pay or any other payment system, that used to be cash on delivery. 80% of the people used to use cash on delivery 6 years ago before demonetization. Now it's only 1 in 5. Is that an accurate measure of perhaps not an intended consequence of demonetization, let's say an unintended consequence, but a good one?
Absolutely, Zaka. I think, the end of the day, even for a normal person to carry around wads of cash is just plain inconvenient. And I think there was a study that talks about in 2025, 70% of all our payments in this country are going to be cashless. So it's naturally a good thing. I'll just address that point about cash increasing also. The fact is that post demonetization, the rate of growth of cash, which if we just took like a linear sample, should have actually been much higher today's date than it is at the moment. So clearly, the rate of growth of cash in the economy, and this is despite the fact that we've had DBT, and we've had this dash for cash, as Governor Shaktikant Das called it, where during times of crisis, people want to have more cash, and therefore the RBI perhaps has actually reached out and tried to help people out. I would just make one slightly unconnected point, if you'd allow me, Zaka, which is that I think we need to be very careful when we use, especially on a national TV circuit, examples of Weimar Republic and Nazis killing 6 million Jews.
Yes.
Because it takes away the seriousness. The Nazis killed Jews because of hatred. They did not kill them because of economy. And I think we just need to be very clear that India and us comparing ourselves to a Nazi regime is just unfair to us, all of us Indians as a whole.
I think Ishkaran also wanted to make a point on that, yeah.
Exactly, Zaka. I had raised my hand when that analogy was made. To compare demonetization with the Nazi doctrine of living space or annexation, I think is making a travesty of this entire debate, and those set agendas should not be done. But let me come to the bigger aspect. As I said, there are two objective metrics and one subjective metric. Economy, there are data on both sides and the people will decide. But the two objective verdicts, court verdict and people's verdict. The court verdict is resoundingly clear, and the people's verdict immediately 3 months after in UP or in 2019, the lived-in experience of people, whether they faced pain or whether they faced growth, is elucidated at the voting box, is elucidated when the judgment of the people comes in. And the court verdict and the people verdict on this issue are very clear. And I think that should be the last word on the issue.
So, Aishwarya, this is something that the Congress or other opposition parties will not be able to live down. Yes, there was pain. Nobody is doubting that the hardship and pain that people had to go through. But virtually 2 months after demonetization, you had the Uttar Pradesh election. It was virtually a referendum on demonetization. And the BJP won its biggest electoral victory in the biggest state in this country. Or you were to take any other subsequent electoral verdicts thereafter as well, it's not like demonetization was an issue at all for people, at least from the way they seem to have voted.
Zaka, let me make one thing emphatically clear before I answer what you said. I was talking about something that was widely accepted as a policy, which ended up creating a lot of harm in terms of annexation and whatnot. And at no point am I trying to make light of anybody suffering whatsoever. But thank you very much for the wonderfully guided advice from everybody else on this panel. But to actually assume that everything post 2016, then you can say elections that were lost were a mandate against the BJP. It is very easily this sort of shifting goalposts, right? Because initially it came 50 days, otherwise you kept me alive and whatnot. But then they moved from black money, fake currency, informal economy to saying digitization is the new goalpost for them. And that is continuously what became the government sort of response. Zaka, let me give you an example. In the period of 40 days after, more than 110 notifications were basically put out by Urjit Patel, if I'm not wrong, who was then the RBI governor, who also under stress did say there was lots of policy backlash from what happened. You saw the way that it was implemented. You saw the people suffering. Today, we can sit and look at the fallout as benefits. But at no point does it take away that initially and the entire exercise was flawed. Today, we will give you justifications. The government's very good at spinning it. But at no point does it take away from the suffering or the sort of hardship that came out.
Okay, I'll give
Whether
Mr. Das the final word. I've got to completely wrap up after this. Just a minute, Mr. Das. So again, you have the legal aspect. Hopefully, the legal aspect is settled after today's 4-1 majority judgment. You have the economic aspect, and as Ishkaran said, there's data on the one side and there's data on the other. And politically, clearly, you know, at least the people of India and the people of the biggest states in this country have spoken in the immediate aftermath of demonetization, even in the distant aftermath of demonetization. How will this momentous event and those 50 days be remembered and be judged?
Well, to be judged, if you ask me how I would judge it, or 1 billion Indians will judge it. You've said how the UP, the largest state in the country, 2 months after this, actually won a big majority, is a people's verdict about this. And so no matter how much we may feel, but to me, the biggest statistic, and the negative statistic I read about this was the CMI report, which showed that 3.5 million jobs were actually lost as a result of this. Now, I'm not sure how they calculated this. I usually believe in CMI statistics, so I don't know, frankly, how correct this is. But anecdotally, a lot of people lost their jobs.
Okay.
And that from what I know.
All right, we'll have to leave it at that. I'm completely out of time. Sorry for the interruption. I'm completely out of time. I want to thank all our guests. Like I said, ultimately, I think the final word on demonetization as a policy instrument, as an economic move, may not still have been written, but in legality terms, in purely legal terms, I think today's majority judgment completely underlines that the process of implementation of demonetization was perfectly legally and constitutionally valid. 4:1 judgment. Yes, there was one dissenting judgment, but the majority judgment of 4:1 is the law of the land. Quick shifting focus now to the other story, and this is absolutely tragic. It's also a sign of how little has changed in the national capital in the last 10 years since Nirbhaya. In the wee hours of the 1st of January, a 23-year-old woman was out on her scooty in the Sultanpuri area in North Delhi. 5 drunk men in a Baleno car hit her bike and they just kept on driving. The most chilling part was her body got stuck in the wheel of the car and it got dragged for at least 10 to 12 kilometers. Eyewitnesses claim that they saw a body hanging from underneath the car. They called the police about it, but nothing was done. Eventually, it was after almost an hour that a call was made to the police PCR van informing about a naked female body lying on the side of the road. That's when the cops came to the scene. This once again shows just how atrocious the national capital has become, a living hell that it has become for women.
A horrific start to 2023 in the national capital. A 23-year-old girl was hit by a car and dragged for several kilometers in the Sultanpuri area. The 23-year-old victim's body was found naked on the road when the police finally reached the spot. The 23-year-old girl was on her way back home after work on her scooty when a car allegedly hit her scooter and she fell off, got entangled in the car's wheel.
जो अभी तक का इन्वेस्टिगेशन है उसमें हमें ये जानकारी मिली है कि उस लड़की की जो बॉडी थी वो उस गाड़ी में कहीं स्टक की है और वो कई किलोमीटर तक लगभग 10-12 किलोमीटर तक उन्होंने ड्रैग किया है और फिर वो किसी टर्निंग के दौरान कहीं पर वो बॉडी गिरी है.
The victim's body was dragged from Sultanpuri to Kanjhawala in Delhi before her body fell off on the road. Eyewitnesses informed the police that they saw a body was being dragged along with the car and the car took a U-turn near the police station.
अग्रसेन हॉस्पिटल वाला रोड है, उस रोड पे मैंने जैसे ही अपनी बाइक मोड़ी वहां से गाड़ी आई, मेरी बाइक उनकी गाड़ी से टकराने से बची और गाड़ी होगी मेरी अनबैलेंस. तो मैंने जैसे ही अपनी गाड़ी संभाली उनकी गाड़ी रोहिणी की तरफ को मुड़ चुकी थी. तो जब उनकी गाड़ी रोहिणी की तरफ को मुड़ी 100-150 मीटर की दूरी पर पुलिस चौकी है. उस पुलिस चौकी को देखकर उन्होंने वापसी गाड़ी मोड़ी कंजावला की तरफ को. जब उन्होंने गाड़ी मोड़ी सिंगल रोड पर तो गाड़ी में आवाज आई बहुत तेज. तो मोड़ने की स्पीड में जब गाड़ी मुड़ेगी तो तेज की आवाज आएगी. जब आवाज सुनकर मैंने पीछे मुड़ के देखा तो उस गाड़ी में से गाड़ी के पीछे से लड़की का सर लटक रहा था.
Massive protests have broken out in Delhi's Sultanpuri area. Protesters slammed police for going slow. AAP MLA Rakhi Birla's car was even vandalized when she visited the site.
हमारी कुछ डिमांड नहीं है, उन्हें हमारे हवाले कर दिया जाए. 500 तो हमारे हवाले कर दिया जाए. हमें फांसी चाहिए. बस हमें कुछ नहीं चाहिए.
इनमें जो 500 लोग हैं, इनमें से किसी को जानते हैं आप?
हम नहीं जानते. सब अनजान है, हमें नहीं पता इन चीजों का.
Politics has taken center stage over the incident, with BJP and AAP blaming each other. AAP protested outside the Delhi LG office, alleging that the accused were being shielded, while the BJP hit back, saying AAP is trying to settle its own scores with the LG.
ये बेहद शर्मनाक घटना है और समझ में नहीं आता कि हमारा समाज किस तरफ जा रहा है जब कुछ लड़कों ने अपनी गाड़ी से एक लड़की को कई किलोमीटर तक घसीटा और उसकी बहुत दर्दनाक मौत हो गई.
जब वो घटना हुई क्या उनको मालूम था, पुलिस वालों को मालूम था क्या कि ये लोग बीजेपी के लोग हैं या एलजी साहब के लोग हैं? किस तरह की बातें करते हैं, ये किस तरह की राजनीति कर रहे हैं? अपने स्कोर सेटल करने के लिए एलजी साहब के साथ जिस प्रकार का भाषा का प्रयोग किया जा रहा है, जिस प्रकार की राजनीति की जा रही है, वो निंदनीय है.
The big question is, has politics derailed Nyay in the Delhi hit-and-run horror?
Panelists this evening on what an utterly shocking and despicable case this has become. It symbolizes and signifies that pretty much nothing or very little has changed in the 10 years since Nirbhaya. Bharka Shukla Singh is Vice President of the Delhi BJP, former Chief of the Delhi Commission for Women. Reena Gupta is spokesperson of the Aam Aadmi Party. Nirmal Kaur, former IPS officer. And Sarah Shah Halim is a writer and activist. Bharka Shukla Singh, let me start with you, ma'am. You and I, we were all there when Nirbhaya happened 10 years ago. We said, CCTV lagaenge, street lights badhaenge, we'll do all kinds of things, PCR vans badhaenge, fast track courts banayenge. But look at this incident that happened on January 1st. 23-year-old girl is hit by 5 drunk men in a car. Her body gets stuck in the wheel. और 10 किलोमीटर तक वो गाड़ी चलती रही. And no one did a thing. No bystander did a thing. No police van did a thing. No PCR, nothing. I mean, what has changed, ma'am, in the last 10 years?
You see, this is very unfortunate कि आज के दिन 31st night जबकि सारा वर्ल्ड जो है वो सेलिब्रेट कर रहा है नए साल का खुशी के लिए, उस दिन एक इतनी गरीब बच्ची जो अपने पूरे घर का पालन पोषण करती है, उस बच्ची के साथ इतनी जबरदस्त घिनौनी जो हरकत हुई है, बहुत शर्मनाक है और इसके लिए हम सब शर्मिंदा है. एलजी साहब ने इसके देखिए मैं यहाँ पे एक बहुत ही आपसे रिक्वेस्ट करूंगी और एक वो होना चाहिए कि ऑल पार्टी, किसी पार्टी का नाम मैं नहीं ले रही, चाहे आम आदमी पार्टी हो, चाहे कांग्रेस हो या कोई भी पार्टी हो, एटलीस्ट महिलाओं के मुद्दे पे सबको एक होना चाहिए।
Yeah.
हम सब महिलाएं हैं, हम क्यों आपस में लड़ते हैं भाई? हम सबकी तकलीफें एक सी हैं, हम सबके घरों में ऐसा होता है। एलजी साहब ने, आप एलजी साहब के घर पे जाके डेमोन्स्ट्रेशन कर रहे हैं, उनको गालियां दे रहे हैं, उनसे इस्तीफा मांग रहे हैं। व्हाट इज दिस नॉनसेंस?
Reena Gupta,
I don't understand all this.
Reena Gupta,
LG
you know,
साहब ने
politically, yes,
one second,
police
one
comes
second,
under
one second.
LG, you're a political
One
party.
second, one second.
Given the political tensions between you and LG, you are free to do your political activity. But let's also not forget, Reena Gupta, the fact is that your MLA from that area, Rakhi Birla, she went to that locality and we saw those pictures as well. Today, the people of Delhi and the women of Delhi are angry. And this is not the time for, you know, LG ने ये किया, CM ने ये किया, BJP ने ये किया, आपने वो किया. Reena Gupta.
Zaka, so let's look at the incidents that have happened. When this heinous crime was taking place, an eyewitness called the police 22 times. Not once, not twice, 22 times. He was following the perpetrators. They passed a PCR van where the police was in a drunken state. So the police failed to act for 1.5 hours. And after that, you're saying we should not blame the Delhi police. Who else are we to be blamed? The Delhi police, as you're rightly saying, in the last 10 years, what has changed? It is the same thing over and over again. We keep coming to these TV programs and we keep saying that police badhani chahiye, police ki gasht badhani chahiye, PCR van should be able to reach there in 5 minutes if there is an incident. Second point, the perpetrators of this crime, the mastermind of this crime, Mukesh Mittal, is a Bharatiya Janata Party leader. His poster is outside the very police station where this crime occurred. And that is the reason why we have seen since yesterday, the police is actually defending the perpetrators.
No, one second. This is a, I just want to be very clear for our viewers. One second. I just want to be very clear for our viewers. This is a political charge that's been laid. We will have to check back with our reporters on this. Right now, all these 5, what the police have said is that they've been sent to police custody for the next 3 days. Of course, they were produced in a judge's chamber today. But fact is, Barkha Shukla, this is a valid question to ask. I'll go to Nirmal Kaur also. I want to go to Nirmal Kaur also. One second. Nirmal Kaur, ma'am.
Let me complete.
There are 2 others also. Let them also come into the debate. I'll come back to you in a couple of minutes. Please, ma'am, with your permission. Nirmal Kaur, you know, the fact is that from 3:30 to 4:11, when that final PCR call was heeded to by the police, number of calls were made and the police did nothing. And again, there is this one eyewitness who has come out and said that he went past a PCR van and the police, the 2 beat constables who were there in the PCR van were drunk, were in an inebriated state. If this is the state of the police in India's national capital, then ma'am, what hope do our women have?
It is pathetic. It's really pathetic, you know, the kind of carelessness they have shown. And it's such a, you know, heartrending crime where a young girl who's the sole breadwinner of the family is working so hard and working so late in the night on such a bitter cold night to support her siblings and her mother. She has no father. And we as a society cannot provide security to her. You know, she's a hardworking girl. She's trying to work hard and, you know, make to stand her own 2 feet. And this is what our society is. And even when after the incident has taken place, the police has behaved in a very irresponsible manner, very careless, almost careless to the degree of being criminal. And it's such a partying night, you know, that everybody thinks, you know, that it's their right to be able to party on the New Year Eve. What is so great about New Year Eve? And anyway, police cannot party because they are on duty.
No, Saira Shah Halim, today we had, you know, the police have put out this thing saying 315 drunk driving challans have been done on New Year's Eve between December 31st and January 1st, which apparently is a 4 or 5 year high. Now, these fellows, all 5 of them drunk admittedly, and this is what the police are saying on record, drag a body in their car for 10 to 12 kilometers. There was no drunk drive checking. There was no, you know, PCR calls that were answered. There was no even bystanders trying to stop these guys. I mean, what is going on? What is the state of the national capital?
Absolutely, Zaka. Like we were discussing about Nirbhaya's incident and how things have changed or not changed. I would say that things haven't bettered even one bit. The Nirbhaya funds are underutilized. We were on a debate where we discussed how the Nirbhaya funds are misappropriated. See, whenever there's a New Year's party, here we are not sitting on a moral high horse and telling people not to celebrate 31st Eve. By all means, celebrate 31st because that's a very special night. However, what is pertinent here is the responsibility of the law enforcement agencies. We are not playing politics here because this is a very unfortunate incident. Because in every city, we have seen how the police ramps up police personnel. Especially here, you're talking about the heart of India, you're talking about the capital city, you're talking about Delhi. And here we know that Delhi has the highest number of crime rates in the country. So I want to ask the police personnel in Delhi, what was happening for right from 18 to 20 kilometers when this girl's body got entangled in the undercarriage? Here, some people have managed to drag the body, like for good 1.5 hours. And it's only because of the special cameras that this crime could be detected.
Yeah.
So I think it is absolutely appalling. And here we shouldn't give any kind of a loose rope to the police. We need to make them accountable and ask, how did this happen? How
No,
did this
which is
very
when I
unfortunate
come to this
incident
political
even
question, and we've
transpire?
all been saying,
That also on first. That is
what's
also on
changed in the
1st of
last 10
January.
years since Nirbhaya. So, Reena Gupta, I want to ask you, when Nirbhaya happened, of course, Aam Aadmi Party at that time in your IAC version, you all came out and said Sheila Dikshit government is responsible, Sheila Dikshit government is responsible. She had only as much powers as you guys had, and nothing has changed in the last 10 years in the devolution of those powers. If anything has happened, the Delhi police have been given even more of a free run. I mean, look at what happened on the night of 1st of January. I mean, a young girl who's returning from work, by the way, it's not like she's gone out for a party. She is coming back after earning a hard day's bread, gets knocked over, and PCR vans couldn't bother taking distress calls from citizens. Bystanders couldn't stop these guys. There's no explanation why drunk driving checks did not catch these guys. They were roaming around for 10 to 12 kilometers, admittedly by the police's own statements. So what has really changed? Now, tomorrow, you all will attack the LG. The postmortem will be out, the cremation will be done. These guys, then the judicial process will take over. The media will forget the story, and that's it until the next victim comes along.
Zaka, that is exactly what we've been saying, that why is it 10 years later we are still discussing a similar incident to Nirbhaya? It is very clear that Delhi police is the most politicized and the least accountable police. Why don't we change that? Why don't we have a separate police for VIP security and a separate police for the citizens of Delhi? Why is it that for 1.5 hours you don't have a PCR van showing up? And you look at the accountability of Delhi police. The DCP is defending the perpetrators. They even attacked journalists today. The Delhi police attacked the journalists. First, they were putting the case under such lenient IPC sections, 304A, where you can get bail from the police station itself. You don't even need to go to court. It is only after the pressure of Aam Aadmi Party and after the media pressure that the sections have changed. So why
Barkha Shukla, please respond to that, ma'am. Lighter charges were put. It is only after the media and most importantly the local people there. You saw their emotions. You saw their anger. You could sense how outraged they were. It's only after that the police added more stringent provisions.
Absolutely, you are right. Our LG is very serious about it. उन्होंने अभी पुलिस कमिश्नर को नोटिस किया है और ये कहा है कि वो लोग जो भी हो, जिस भी पार्टी से बिलोंग करते हैं, वॉट एवर दे आर, ऑन कोई भी पोस्ट पे हो, किसी भी पार्टी पे हो, कितने भी पैसे वाले हो, उनके ऊपर सख्त से सख्त सजा होनी चाहिए, उनके ऊपर सख्त से सख्त सेक्शन लगने चाहिए और उनको वही सजा मिलनी चाहिए जो आम लोगों को मिलती है. इसमें कोई पॉलिटिक्स नहीं होनी चाहिए. एलजी साहब बहुत सीरियस है और आपको बता दूं मैं जिस तरह से इस समय उन्होंने
मैम सवाल ये भी है, मैम सवाल ये भी है, वो जो पीसीआर वैन था जिसमें लोग आके बताए कि देखिए ऐसा ऐसा हो रहा है और वो लोग शराब पी के बैठे हुए थे उस वैन के अंदर, क्या उनके खिलाफ भी एक्शन लेनी चाहिए?
बिल्कुल लेंगे, बिल्कुल लेंगे, बिल्कुल उन्होंने बोला है सबके खिलाफ एक्शन लिया जाएगा जो भी इसमें दोषी है। ये मैं आपके चैनल पे बहुत ही विश्वास के साथ और बहुत अपने उसके साथ कह रही हूँ कि इस पे सब पे एक्शन लिया जाएगा। और हम लोगों को मैं हमारी जो यहाँ पे जो भी बहनें हैं, आप लोग किसी भी पार्टी से हो, देखिए इसमें हम वी ऑल आर लेडीज, वी आर आवर फीलिंग्स इज वन। ठीक है, हमारी पार्टियां अलग अलग हैं, हम लोग अलग से आते हैं, पर यहाँ पे एक गरीब लड़की, एक बेसहारा एक बच्ची का मामला है। एटलीस्ट हमें पंजाब में होता है, जयपुर राजस्थान में होता है, तो हम वहां तो जाके नहीं कहते कि इनको बदल दो, उनको बदल दो, मान को बदलो और वो क्या नाम गहलोत को बदलो, इसको बदलो। क्यों ये पॉलिटिक्स क्यों हो रही है?
Okay, Saira Shah Halim, I'll give you the final word. I want to move away from the politics. You know, this story is far bigger than AAP versus BJP. I want to know, Saira Shah Halim, you know, there was the promise of CCTVs being installed. There was the promise of women police officers in every police station. There was the promise of beat constables in every area. Where is all of this? I mean, if in 10 years after Nirbhaya, fast-track courts continuing to hear these sexual assault cases and so on and so forth, where are we 10 years after Nirbhaya has happened?
You're right, Saka. The safety protocols are not at all maintained. Let's be very categorical and clear about it. So firstly, the law enforcement agencies need to be really pulled up, because enough is enough. We need to take accountability from them, because this cannot be a series of events, you know, because it will set a very bad precedence. That here we just don't care about the safety and security of the citizens. Today is this young girl, tomorrow it could be your sister, it could be anybody, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's time that the Delhi police needs to be really taken into, into account, and they need to be asked some very, very pertinent questions.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. I'm going to wrap up and thank you to all our panelists. You know, this is absolutely dreadful what happened to that young woman. Our heart goes out to her family. We can absolutely empathize and absolutely understand the anger and the sense of outrage that community is feeling. And our thoughts and prayers today are with those people in that neighborhood in Sultanpuri. I'm going to take a quick break. When we come back, right on the other side, another senseless set of targeted killings continuing in Jammu and Kashmir. The LG reaches there as well. But when will this stop is what the people there are asking. Quick break, we'll see you in a minute.
कि सर्च ऑपरेशन में कहीं कोताही बरती गई है, सर्च ऑपरेशन में कहीं कमी रह गई थी, क्योंकि कल ही हमले के बाद सभी सेना ने पूरा एरिया, पूरा ये टांगरी गांव कॉर्डन ऑफ कर लिया था। फिर अगर आईडी का ब्लास्ट होना, इसका मतलब है कि सुरक्षा में कहीं कोताही बरती गई है। इतना बड़ा धमाका होना कोई मजाक नहीं है। अगर देर शाम 2 आतंकवादी हथियारों का बड़ा जखीरा लेके इस गांव में पहुंचते हैं, 4 लोगों को मौत के घाट उतारते हैं, 8 लोगों को घायल करते हैं, और उसके बाद भी सर्च ऑपरेशन करने के बाद भी यहाँ पर इतना बड़ा धमाका, जिसका किसी को अंदाजा भी नहीं था, जिसने किसी ने सोचा भी नहीं था कि फायरिंग के बाद, इतना बड़ा हादसा होने के बाद 2 आतंकवादी यहाँ से रात को भाग जाते हैं और वो सुबह यहाँ पर कोई नहीं है, सेना है, चारों तरफ एरिया कॉर्डन ऑफ कर लिया है, पूरे एरिया चारों तरफ से घेरा हुआ है। फिर आईडी ब्लास्ट का होना एक बड़ा सवाल पैदा कर रहा है। यहाँ पर बड़ा सवाल यहाँ पर पैदा कर रहा है कि आईडी ब्लास्ट कैसे हुई, क्या सुरक्षा में कहीं कमी बरती गई, क्या कॉर्डन ऑफ जो एरिया किया था, सारे एरिया ने कॉर्डन ऑफ किया था, पूरा सर्च चल रहा था, तो क्या सर्च में कहीं कमी रही? गाँव वाले डर चुके हैं, गाँव का माहौल खौफजदा हो चुका है, सारे खामोश हो चुके हैं। सिर्फ सवाल हर एक की जुबान पे इतना ही है कि क्या कहीं सुरक्षा में कोताही बरती गई थी। न्यूज़ 18 इंडिया पर आप देख रहे हैं इस वक्त की सबसे बड़ी खबर। यहाँ पर आए तो थे फायरिंग की कवरेज करने कि लोग चले गए इस दुनिया से। 4 लोगों के शवों का अभी इंतजार था कि उनका दाह संस्कार करना है, लेकिन इतना बड़ा धमाका होना एक बहुत बड़ा सवाल यहाँ पर पैदा कर रहा है। कॉर्डन ऑफ किया था एरिया, अगर सर्च ऑपरेशन यहाँ पर अगर चलाई जा रही थी, 12 घंटे से ज़्यादा हो गया सर्च ऑपरेशन अगर चल रही थी, तो इतना बड़ा आईडी ब्लास्ट का होना क्या बयां कर रहा है। आप देखिए ये एरिया पूरा खौफजदा हो चुका है, पुलिस की गाड़ियां भी यहाँ पर पहुँच चुकी है, एरिया पूरा कॉर्डन ऑफ हो गया था। फिर ये धमाका आखिर कैसे हुआ, ये सिक्योरिटी फोर्सेस पे एक बड़ा सवालिया निशान खड़ा हो चुका है कि कैसे आखिर ये कैसे हुआ ये। अगर सारा एरिया कॉर्डन ऑफ था, सारा एरिया को कॉर्डन ऑफ कर लिया था, बड़ी सर्च ऑपरेशन चल रही थी, बड़ी सेना की गाड़ियां, बड़ी सेना की टुकड़ियां यहाँ पर देखी गई, इतना बड़ा सर्च चल रहा था, फिर आखिर इतना बड़ा आईडी ब्लास्ट कैसे हुआ। तो जाहिर सी बात है कि सिक्योरिटी फोर्सेस पे एक बड़ा सवालिया निशान। अगर सर्च ऑपरेशन इतनी बड़ी थी तो इतना बड़ा धमाका उसी घर में कैसे हो जाता। ये लोग जो तस्वीरों में आपने देखा, ये लोग तो आए थे अफसोस करने के लिए उस घर में जिन लोगों की जान चली गई थी, आए तो थे आंसू बहाने जिन लोगों की रात को जाने चली गई, लेकिन इन्हें नहीं मालूम था कि आए हैं हम अफसोस करने और यहाँ पर हो कुछ और जाता है। आए तो थे वो उनके लिए आंखों में आंसू बहाने, लेकिन अपने आप को ही वो जख्मी कर देते हैं। बहुत बड़ा सवालिया निशान यहाँ पर खड़ा हो गया। इतनी बड़ी सर्च ऑपरेशन तो फिर कैसे हुआ। आईडी ब्लास्ट वीडियो जर्नलिस्ट राजीव बख्शी के साथ कोमल सिंह, न्यूज़ 18 इंडिया, राजौरी।
Okay, let's go over to my colleague Tejinder right now to understand. Tejinder, if I can... All right, before we are able to re-establish that connection with my colleague Tejinder, who is joining us in a little while, let me just confirm for you the details that we do have about this entire story. As you've just been told, this is an incident that originally took place yesterday. The first part of this incident is that there was an attack in the Rajouri area. Now, during that attack, 4 civilians were killed. The manner of the attack has been given much attention to. A, that it took place in Jammu. Remember, over the last year, we've seen a spate of such killings take place. However, they have largely been focused.
Welcome back. Targeted killings have shifted now from the Kashmir Valley to Jammu. Yesterday, 4 civilians were shot dead after terrorists opened fire in Rajouri. And less than 12 hours after that, at that very same spot, in that very same house, a child was killed in an IED blast.
धमाके में जो लड़की इंजर्ड हुई है उसको ले जाते हुए सेना के जवान और जल्दी से कोशिश की जा रही है कि एम्बुलेंस यहाँ पे पहुंचे, उसको अस्पताल लेके जाया जा सके। राजीव तस्वीरों में बताने की कोशिश करो। अभी जो धमाका हुआ है उसमें 2 लोग जख्मी हो गए। दोनों जख्मियों को यहाँ से ले जाया जा रहा है। एरिया को कॉर्डन ऑफ कर लिया है। धमाका हुआ है, उनके कपड़े तक फट चुके हैं। इस समय उनको होश नहीं है। मैं तस्वीरों में सामने दिखाने की कोशिश करूंगी कि उनको हॉस्पिटल ले जाया जा रहा है। और एक बड़ा धमाका हुआ है। आप देख सकते हैं कि इन महिला के कपड़े तक फट चुके हैं। इनकी तबीयत हालत इनकी खराब है। एम्बुलेंस का इंतजार किया जा रहा था कि ये जवान जल्दी से इसका मतलब है कि जब उन्होंने रात को फायरिंग की थी तब वहां पे वो ग्रेनेड भी था जो अभी धमाका हुआ है। वहां पर बहुत बड़ा धमाका हुआ है। एक आईडी ब्लास्ट हुई है। इस वक्त की सबसे बड़ी ब्रेकिंग आईडी ब्लास्ट हुई है। बच्चा घायल हुआ है, कंधे पे लगी है। क्या हुआ बेटा?
पता नहीं, बम आया था, लगी है।
बम आया था? अभी तो हम ठीक थे, हम आपके घर से होके आए हैं।
हाँ, तो अभी आया जा।
धमाका हुआ है, बच्चे को लगी है। इस जिप्सी में घायलों को लेके जाया जा रहा है। उसी घर में एक बड़ा हमला हुआ है। आईडी ब्लास्ट का होना एक बड़ा सवाल पैदा कर रहा है। यहाँ पर बड़ा सवाल पैदा कर रहा है कि आईडी ब्लास्ट कैसे हुई। क्या सुरक्षा में कहीं कमी बरती गई? क्या कॉर्डन ऑफ जो एरिया किया था, सारे एरिया ने कॉर्डन ऑफ किया था, पूरा सर्च चल रहा था, तो क्या सर्च में कहीं कमी रही? गांव वाले डर चुके हैं। गांव का माहौल खौफजदा हो चुका है। सारे खामोश हो चुके हैं। सिर्फ सवाल हर एक की जुबान पे इतना ही है कि क्या कहीं सुरक्षा में कोताही कोताही बरती गई थी। न्यूज़ 18 इंडिया पर आप देख रहे हैं इस वक्त की सबसे बड़ी खबर। यहाँ पर आए तो थे फायरिंग की कवरेज करने की, लोग चले गए इस दुनिया से। 4 लोगों के शवों का अभी इंतजार था कि उनका दाह संस्कार करना है, लेकिन इतना बड़ा धमाका होना एक बहुत बड़ा सवाल यहाँ पर पैदा कर रहा है।
सारी तरह के एविडेंस कलेक्ट किए जाएंगे, जो फिजिकल एविडेंस हैं, ओरल एविडेंस हैं, या जो सीसीटीवी बेस्ड जो एविडेंस हैं, सारे एविडेंस के आधार पर एविडेंस कलेक्ट करने के बाद हम जो अभियुक्त हैं उनको कड़ी से कड़ी सजा दिलवाएंगे।
मेरे पे एक ऑर्डर था, मैंने उसको क्लियर करने के बाद मैंने पुलिस को इन्फॉर्म करा। 2 पुलिस वाले मुझे जाते हुए दिखे, उन्हें मैंने इन्फॉर्म करा कि सर ऐसे मैंने वारदात देखी है।
पुलिस का क्या रवैया था? पुलिस ने क्या कहा आपको?
उन्होंने ये बात बोली थी कि तेरे तो नहीं लगी, मगर नहीं दी, बाकी हम देख लेंगे।
क्या किया है एलजी साहब ने पिछले 1 साल में, जब से वो एलजी बने हैं दिल्ली की महिलाओं को सुरक्षा देने के लिए? उनको सिर्फ एक काम है, अरविंद केजरीवाल के काम को रोको।
हर चक्के पे पुलिस रह रही है, ट्रैफिक पुलिस वाले रहते हैं, नाइट की भी पुलिस की ड्यूटी होती है, तो ये सारे कांड हो क्यों रहे हैं?
जब तक पुलिस पूरा भरोसा न देगी, उन्हें अरेस्ट करने का, उन्हें फांसी नहीं सजेगा, जब तक यहाँ तक पब्लिक हट नहीं सकती।
Hello everyone, you're watching News Epicenter with me, Maria Shakil. Massive protests erupted in the national capital demanding justice for the 23-year-old woman who was killed in the early hours of the